Hello, and welcome to the DoneJS contributors meeting. Today is Friday, May 11th, 2018. We're coming to you live from Charlotte. Hey,
Charlotte.
Hey. Today we're going to talk about what we've been working on the last couple of weeks and give demos, and then if there are any topics, we'll discuss those. First, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Chasen.
Justin. We should do a wave.
Do a wave?
Oh.
Matthew.
Hey! All right, who wants to get us started off with demos?
I do.
Awesome.
All right, let's see how I can do this. Hopefully it works. I've worked on a few things. The biggest thing I've worked on the last couple weeks is, well, first off, there's a CanJS 5.0 pre-release out, which is kind of cool. What does it have? It has can rest real time, which maybe Justin will talk about. It's got a bunch of stuff, but I guess the thing that I'm going to talk about is that can.js itself is an ES module that exports everything that CanJS provides, including all of the ecosystem. So everything from like our utility stuff, like can stash route helpers and can DOM events, all the way up through like React, can connect feathers and React view model. Everything we have in CanJS is part of this package. So instead of having to import the individual packages that you use, you can just import can and you get everything. So that's pretty cool, I think. So like we're gonna update all of our documentation, all of our demos to do it that way. So instead of having, this isn't too bad, but sometimes you have a pretty long list of things you're importing or requiring. There'll just be one import statement which just picks out the stuff that you actually use. So part of that is I wrote a code mod. It's really just for docs. Probably still recommend that people do use the individual packages because that way you get the latest version all the time. But for CanJS docs, we do want to show it using the single import from can. So I have a little demo here. This is what demo page usually looks like. And then if I run this code mod, which hopefully I had in my history here, it turns out to be like this and a little bit simpler.
Yeah, that's super slick.
So that's a code mod that exists. And so we'll be able to, because I wrote that, we can work on markdowns and demo pages and be much easier for us to update all of our stuff. So it's not super easy to use right now, and then you get to work with Landscaper so we can automate it and send out pull requests and that kind of thing. But yeah, CanJS 5.0 pre is out. That is it for me.
Cool. Sweet. Awesome.
I'll go next. Do we need to switch? Yeah. Oh, I need to share my screen now. Cool. All right, so I have been primarily working on a client project the last couple weeks, but a couple of small things that I did. There's a new version of the CanJS DevTools that got released, this 0.0.4, which primarily tries to clean up some of the error messages and then makes it work with pages with iframes. So a lot of our guides and things like that have iframes for JS bins and stuff like that. So we wanted to make that work. So we can see that here. If I select this item, this is an example of one of the new error messages that it gives you. This is using can.all, which doesn't set can on the window, or that doesn't have can debug as a part of the can.all build. So you don't get any of the graph stuff, but you can use the view model editor, which still needs some work, but it does, it does work now. So that's the first thing. The other thing that I've been working on is for this client project, I've been upgrading their app to CanJS 4.0, and they have a ton of leak scope stuff going on. So in doing that, I found a few problems with scope.root, which is what we kind of recommend for some of the, for some of these lookups. So what I've done is I've added two new properties on the scope, the scope.vm. It's a little bigger. Scope.vm and then scope.top. So scope.vm gives you kind of the first view model that's available in your scope hierarchy, and then scope.top gives you the very top level view model that's available in your hierarchy. So in this case, where we have leak scope turned on with this second component, scope.top is basically this one. Scope.top is basically the application view model for this app. So I added those two, and then I've been working on these warnings that give you What used to happen is you would just get this thing that says unable to find key. Now what it does, it says unable to find key, try using one of these instead, and it gives you all of the possible keys that you could use instead. So like /VM here is the same as scope.vm, but it'll give you both of those depending on what you want to use. And then if scope.top is applicable, it'll give you that. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. This should be hopefully released. I probably won't release today, but early next week, people can use it.
Sweet. Awesome. Justin, do you have anything you want to demo?
Sure. Share my screen. So, yeah, my sound's coming through there. I've got the CanJS 5.0 docs published, or pre-release docs published. You can check that out at canjsgithub.io/next. We'll probably get it in the dropdown here on the mainline CanJS site probably pretty soon too, so people can more easily navigate to it. One thing I did is I made this API docs page kind of like a giant cheat sheet for most of core CanJS. I haven't added the routing stuff yet, but this is probably even good if you're using 5.0 and you just want to like introduce CanJS to some people. It's got the model layer laid out nice, all the stash syntax and what it means laid out in nice tabular form, the bindings and examples of what they produce all laid out. Pretty handy as a reference, I think. Or I think also the long-term goal here is to make it so that the comments aren't actually shown in line, that you can hover over code and then it'll tell you more information, give you links and things like that. That'll probably happen later if someone wants to contribute that. I can happily show you how to improve the docs in that way. Along with getting that documentation is I've created the new kind of core. I just killed myself, didn't I? Closing too many browser windows. Hold on, sorry. Be right back. At least I'm still here while I'm going back.
Dancing in the meantime.
All right. Hey, I'm back. All right, so while documenting getting 5.0 ready, this is what the new kind of core data modeling gang looks like. There's going to be a can fixture, can query logic, can real-time REST model, can REST model, and can super model. Essentially, now there's going to be, for all those folks who used can model of old, something that approximates that. It doesn't have the real-time behavior, and this is kind of your starter REST model that you can use. So really the order, these three model layers build on each other. There's can REST model, then can on top of that by adding kind of the real-time automatic list management, and then supermodel adds the fall-through caching. So these now have relatively, like I would say, improved guides for if you're just coming at CanJS new on how to use, like starting with real-time REST model, how to define your types, what the what the service layer produces given a certain configuration, how to configure different things like, hey, you want a different URL, your data comes back differently, those common, those common needs, how to match your service layer is all documented here. Then if you were looking for more advanced functionality or automatic list management, how to do that, and kind of links to where you would configure that, such as, can query logic comes into play once you want the real-time automatic list management. That's mostly it. And then supermodel, that's just when you want pretty much everything under the sun. So this is, my hope is that doing it this way instead of can connect, essentially having pre-configured can connect behaviors will make it a little bit easier for people to start with our model layer. can fixture is also now part of core.
Cool.
And then the final thing is, did the wrong URL. The final thing is there's now a diff package inside CanJS that has utilities for taking differences of maps, lists, and deep objects as well. So that's useful if you're for a wide variety of circumstances you'll find yourself in. So
What's that predict? Was that give you like a diff set kind of thing? Or?
So this can do a diff lists, or it can diff a single object.
Does it mutate the one of them? Or
if you want to, it produces patches that can be used to mutate.
Did we ever do the can.patches simple thing?
Yeah,
ever happen?
That exists.
What use is that? Does something?
So some low level. If we want to get into some low level weed stuff.
Would this be related to this at all? The diff set, the patches that it produces, is that the same format as the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it produces the same. Yeah. So the patches that come out of this are match the on patches handler. What you get back from the on patches handler. Cool. Sure. That's it for me.
Awesome. I'm gonna. All right, so I want to share my screen.
Hey, Sheriff. Sheriff.
Hey, Sheriff. All right, so at the beginning of last week, I published this community update. It goes over a little bit of a sneak peek of the stuff that we just talked about. So Matthew talked about tree shaking with CanJS, and there's a pre-release of Steel Tools that supports tree shaking as well. Kevin just went over DevTools for CanJS, so it mentions that. We did a couple of YouTube trainings with links to those, talking about what's coming up in our community, or what was voted on from our community survey. Justin was just demoing the can query logic and can set stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about the improved routing in just a minute. And then the other two most highly voted on items from our last survey were easy state management for React with can observe. That was the post-act proposal, and improving the CanJS documentation, which I think we plan on doing after CanJS 5 is released. We've got a couple of meetups in a couple weeks in both Chicago and LA. We always want to thank our contributors for making patches to CanJS, DoneJS, and SteelJS. And then, as always, if you're working on a JavaScript application, if you need consulting or training, we, Bitovi, are available. So hire us if you have JavaScript needs. Or other needs, yeah. Any needs, we can we can help out.
I'm good at like building brick patios.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I like brick for 2 years.
Oh, wow. All right, so improve routing to components. This was one of the things that was most highly voted on in a previous survey. What I've been working on these past couple of weeks is when you, just a quick overview. So when you create a component and it gives you a constructor function, you're going to be able to call new on that and then provide a bunch of things that would otherwise be provided to the component if you were just instantiating it through Stash. So one of those things is providing a view model and values to the component. So in this example, we're just providing a really simple string, but we want to be able to provide observable values that are bound to other values. So this is useful in, let me see if there's not a bigger example. But this is useful if you're like creating a component for routing and then you need to bind it to your app state or some other observable. So as part of that, I'm working on creating a can bind package. This is like a low-level infrastructure thing, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But essentially, I'm taking the logic from can-stash bindings, putting it into its own package, which has just a ton of options for configuring how you want to bind to observables. And then it has all of the the logic for like what happens when you start the binding. How do those values get synced? How do like cycles between, if a parent has a stutter and a child has a stutter, how do those get resolved? It has all of the logic for that, which means in can stash bindings, we're gonna, this is a work in progress PR I have open for using can bind. There's a couple of changes here and there, but I love seeing so much like lines of code deleted, just like huge batches of code deleted, and replaced with, you know, can bind with a bunch of configuration options. So that's what I'm working on right now for the improved routing to components. I'm hoping to have this wrapped up next week, and then I can start working on the routing guide and the testing guide. And let me stop this one. Cool. Also, I think that's it for demos. Do you guys have anything you wanted to talk about for topics?
No.
No?
What you're looking specifically.
Yeah, I've got one. I don't.
Yeah.
So the API docs page with the overview is awesome. And there's this. We also talked about several different model layers now, or model layer options for model layers. Is there going to be like a similar page that will lay out those and the differences between like
The page
the
kind of
REST model?
does a little bit, but
So it'd be cool to see like this is
Oh,
your base one, and then
does it
like you
not
mentioned,
do that?
I don't know, like
Hey,
your
what
base
page
model
is
is
this?
can REST model, and if you want to add real time, you do
Yeah.
this. If you want to add,
What if you start like using
It
them?
does kind of.
What if I use real time?
I mean, it doesn't maybe say this explicitly. It needs to, but it's like. Yeah, I guess you could say it more explicitly. I was originally going to have it like those were the in this overview, like that you would see all three of those different setups.
Mhm.
But then I felt that I felt like instead I wanted to give the like the APIs that kind of belong to each. Like can REST model, you have all of the get list and save and all of those things,
Mhm.
and that's kind of for everything, right? And then you want to have the can real-time REST model, then you get like the create instance, you get the real-time methods with that. So that's why like, it's kind of structured the way that I did it. I don't know if that's necessarily the best structure. And I didn't actually, I actually might remove supermodel from core. What's on here? Also, the documentation does say, like, explicitly in use, like, REST model is the most basic built-in CanJS model layer. Use can real-time REST for things that are able to do these other behaviors.
Mhm.
And that's actually one place I spent a lot of time, which is, like, the purpose of can real explain, like, the benefits for that it provides, and it provides those listed instance stores.
Yeah.
That can be quite useful sometimes. So I don't know. I could restructure it.
It should
do-
rewrite it.
Yeah, but
So-
I don't know. It depends on like what people are.
Yeah. So maybe this isn't a problem that's specific to models, because we could have the same thing for views or for observables. It would be nice to have this like you click it gives you like similar to what API docs gives you. It gives you that, but just for observables and how they compare to each other. So I think
Well,
people
if you
have.
Well, the observables don't really compare to each other. The core ones don't.
Well, not compare so much as like one over the other, another, right? Like when you would that object over can define that.
Yeah, it depends on what you're. Like, is that so the goal for this page was more just like API. It wasn't to like explain things. It was mostly like just sharing technology overview pages. I would say more for is like getting people to understand how these things relate, what they're useful for.
Yeah.
This is more of like just I wanted a cheat sheet basically. People can be like, oh, what's the if you look at it, the there's a lot of different ways you can define on observable, or like all the different async resolver, value, type, identity. Give people like a picture of what that looks like in, you know, the 90% of what you're going to do. Here's like all of the examples for that is quick summary. It's more, in my opinion, more for people who are actively programming just than the people who are coming to learn.
Okay. Cool.
I have a topic / question. You said you're going to remove Can supermodel from core. What does core mean anymore? Does it just mean this first set of things that are not hidden on the API page? Is that really all it means?
It's interesting to me what it means with now that we have.
That's my.
So yeah,
it meant more when there was a core. There was a core.js part of the global build.
Yeah, and I'm yes-anding your thing, even though I know you know what you're talking about.
Go ahead.
I'm giving background and exposition of 10 people.
Sorry.
So in 3.0 and 4.0, core basically was like what was included in the can.js build, can.all build. Well, three things: what shows up on the website, like what you should learn, and kind of like what our best thing is. And then I would actually think the most important thing is what we were willing to change, break compatibility without calling it CanJS 5 or 6, right? So can fixture was ecosystem, which in 4.0, which like, okay, we're going to make a breaking change in can fixture, and no one can complain because that's what we've documented.
Yeah, we had documented. We can do a major.
We could have,
and not do a major version of CanJS. Not do a breaking change and not.
Yes, you're right. If your can fixture you would have to increment. You have to go to your package.json because we are guiding people more towards the. We're guiding people more towards
global.
The global, right? The tree shaking JS object, right? Which means that then using that can fixture, well, fixture is part of core. That's why I moved it there. So it wouldn't be can fixture, but it might be like can. You could have a breaking change in can observe. Someone's just importing observe from can.
So we are including the ecosystem package.
We are currently, yeah. Now 5.0 hasn't been released.
Yeah.
Like
feathers, everything.
Everything is there.
I wonder if because we're.
But we can increment can fixture, and everyone who's using the can package is not going to get a new fixture. Yeah. And they're going to have to remove it from that import statement and install their own can fixture and do it that way.
Yeah, but
which is why if you want that level of granularity, you should solve it.
But if we do a major version of can fixture and then publish that as a minor version of can.
Oh yeah, we should do that.
But that's
but I'm wondering.
I mean, that's what we used to theoretically do. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
we did. Well, there were definitely breaking changes in Kefir.
Yeah, the Kefir stuff. Mm-hmm. So that makes me wonder if we ecosystem stuff in the main can module, just because
ruins the point.
We're for the ecosystem stuff.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, well, I don't know.
So it's kind of
because like converters and stuff like that. I mean, maybe we just move more stuff in the core, but do we can is one thing, and then there is a can all that you import from, and then you know what you're getting. Like we're like, okay, you start importing things from can all, just so you know. Like you might make a breaking change at any point from things that are not in can core, that are like infrastructure still. So everyone knows, infrastructure still. We would have to make a breaking change. We would have to go CanJS 6 for a few changes. That's considered infrastructure. It's only the ecosystem things that are like, we call them like kind of second-party plugins. It's things that we haven't they're useful. We don't feel like necessarily they are these super hard and best things that we've created, that there's still like a lot of room to change your APIs.
Yeah. Can's own is pretty awesome. Offended.
It's in 1.0 though, right?
No, it's not, because I'm afraid to. Not because it shouldn't be. It should be. I just don't have to update everything that I would have to.
Yeah,
probably
it should.
part of it.
I know, yeah. But so that's the tension. Like, and then also at the same time with all this, we don't actually recommend people use.
Except that we do.
We are, documented. We're in a really weird spot where we're trying to like balance like ease of adoption and like long-term like longevity and rigor in the way that you program. And I don't know how to best strike that balance. I think our job is to like make the initial experience really easy to use, and then I think our plan and what we should have for 5.0 is like a guide like, hey, now that you've, by the way, like here's how you really should be structuring your code. Yeah. You should not be importing from Can. You should be installing your specific dependencies and in doing it that way. There's a lot of
I still think we should show people how to create their own Can. Let them use the same import statements we have in all our docs. Just build your own version of Can and have your package like JSON actually have the broken out packages. But you're importing from your own Can thing that exports the stuff that you. Good too. That's the way I would do it on it.
We could even create we could create like a utility or like maybe even DoneJS builds that for you. Like it just exists. Yeah, and another thing I've been thinking about is like just because I like to hack, I use the import from Can, but I want to like always get the latest version. I've always thought about just publishing like a Can 5. It's essentially like
just every.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll get like kind of the latest of everything, and you can just stick on that if you're like you kind of want to work on the bleeding edge. You're doing hobby kind of projects. You're not working. That's exactly what I want. I think we have to write up the issue and decide.
I feel like that would solve problems if we had a 5 package or whatever with the Semper caret for whatever version, and then that kind of solves the problem of using ecosystem packages too that depend on the individual packages, and it's up to you to manage version numbers in your like hopefully package lock or whatever.
Package lock is a good way for those kind of things too.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, because I was kind of thinking about that too. Is like the way that it's all the design hasn't really assumed package lock.
Well, shouldn't.
No, you don't think?
Well,
at some point, like a lot of people are using that in their apps.
I think we should assume that going forward.
I don't know how much it changes things, but like it might mean we can just actually make the CanJS officially just only use Semver releases and not actually publish ever a CanJS package anymore. Just do it when it goes from 5 to 6 because we say, hey, you should use the package lock. I'm not saying we're there yet, but I can see that for Can 6.
Yeah, Breaks out release notes.
Yeah.
Breaks how we do release notes. There'd be no way to tell people like what new things. They have to go and check.
They have to go check every. Yeah.
I might read those.
I do.
God, I hope so. It
takes
forever to
I use them all the time. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Well, especially on some. I use them. It's a good time.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else before we go? Awesome. Well, everyone who's thanks for watching, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. See you later.
Yeah. See you.